Jack raised his glass, a smug grin spreading across his face. "How does it feel to be a loser living off your wife?" He sneered. Laughter exploded around the table, sharp, mocking, and among all that mirth, my wife laughed the loudest. I leaned back, letting their laughter slash through my pride, each sound like a knife twisting deeper. They saw me as a freeloader, a decorative accessory matching my wife's elegance. But tonight, I stood slow. Deliberate, adjusted my tie and locked eyes with CEO Richard Hayes. "You have 24 hours to enjoy your position," I warned quietly, "because the loser here will be signing your termination papers." His face paled, silence fell, so thick my heartbeat echoed in my ears. That moment, I knew it was time to remind everyone, especially my wife, who I really was. Imagine being humiliated before the person you love. Would you stay silent or stand tall? The Waldorf Astoria ballroom glittered with chandeliers like miniature cars, gold lights spilling over elegant tables. This was the stage where my story would change forever. Waiters in tuxedos glided by, pouring champagne as Emily stood radiant in emerald green. Her every move caught the light. She belonged here among executives and power brokers, chuckling at a colleague's joke. Her smile was the one I'd seen countless times before, the smile that said she was part of this world, and I was not. I sipped my whiskey, tasting disappointment and burnt oak. I had stepped away from this world 15 years ago by choice, but seeing her laugh so freely while I stood alone made me feel like a ghost in my own life. They didn't know me, not really, and tonight, their ignorance was about to cost them dearly. Chad Wilson's voice cut through the hum, sharp and mocking. "Jack, get over here, buddy," surrounded by Emily's colleagues and led by his confident, smirking grin. I joined the circle. Emily slipped her arm through mine, her polished corporate smile fixed in place. The trap was set, and Chad wasted no time. Chad raised his glass loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. "So, Jack, what is it like being married to Atlas Dynamics' rising star?" He nodded at Emily like she was a trophy. My face stayed neutral, then Chad leaned in, smirking. "Must be nice having a sugar mama." Laughter rippled around. Emily laughed too, right along with them. The first cut had landed. "Not done?" Chad swirled champagne with eyes gleaming. "Seriously, what do you even do all day while Emily kills it at work?" "Netflix, video games." The laughter grew louder, so loud strangers turned to see. Emily's grip tightened on my arm, but her smile never faltered. Richard Hayes tried to steer the conversation, but Chad pushed further, locking eyes with me. Then he delivered it, the line that crushed me. "What is it like being a loser, having your wife pay all the bills?" The laughter was deafening, washing over me like a storm. The ballroom shrank, air thickened. Each chuckle hammered against my patience built over 15 years of silence. But Emily's laugh, that genuine, unguarded laugh, cut the deepest of all. I let their noise wash over me, posture relaxed, face calm. Inside, something snapped, fueled by whiskey and years of being treated like a background prop. I straightened, rolled my shoulders back. The laughter faltered as eyes turned to me. My gaze locked on Richard Hayes, glass frozen midair. The room went silent, every eye fixed on me. "No, Richard," I said evenly. "It must seem strange from where you're sitting. But how does it feel knowing the loser in this room owns 90% of Atlas Dynamics?" Silence swallowed the room. Richard's face drained as Emily's arm slipped away. Her mouth opened in disbelief. Chad's smirk vanished, replaced by confusion. I watched them process the truth. I asked Richard, leaning in, "You remember Orion Systems, that tech startup we merged with Atlas 5 years ago, the one that pulled you from bankruptcy?" Recognition flickered in his eyes. "That was mine," I said, letting the weight hang. Emily's wine glass slipped, smashing red wine like spilled blood. A stunned hush fell over the room. The night's spell was broken. Spread the papers across my desk, laid at home, the merger contracts, ownership certificates. Every document told the truth. Jack Morgan, the supposed freeloader, was the majority owner of the empire they laughed at. I'd been silent for years, content unseen. But tonight, the game changed. I was ready to claim my respect. 15 years ago, Richard Hayes had come to me, panic evident, drenched in sweat. "Our company's failing," he pleaded. "The merger saved Atlas Dynamics from collapse and gave me 90% control silently." Richard kept his CEO title, but the real power was mine, and it was hidden behind a blind trust. A shield of secrecy that kept me in the shadows. For years I stayed invisible, endorsing Emily's rise while pulling strings behind closed doors. But tonight, humiliation and disrespect lit a fire. I called Marcus, my lawyer, and said, "It's time, prepare for a full audit, finances, executive perks, conflicts, everything." Marcus hesitated, then agreed. The hive was about to be shaken. Marcus worked relentlessly. By morning, Reports exposed obscene executive bonuses, lavish dinners cloaked as client meetings, nepotism steering contracts, and toxic corruption. Richard and his team, confident before, now trembled as their empire cracked. The quiet man deemed a loser was rewriting their fate, and they were powerless to stop it. Within hours, Chad was called to HR. Reviews cited misconduct at corporate events. But the real reason was clear. My audit was dismantling their corrupt reign. The golden boy who mocked me was on thin ice, his reign crumbling. The message was brutal: no one mocks the owner without reckoning. Richard's inbox flooded with my demands. His carefully built kingdom was collapsing fast. He offered to discuss calmly. I refused, no exceptions. I said firmly, documents on my desk by 5 p.m., board meeting scheduled this week. Whispers grew, rumors spread. The era of complacency was over. Control had shifted to me, the true king. 2 executives faced suspension. Investigations revealed extravagant lifetime perks. Contracts favored friends and family mercilessly. The old guard's corruption was crystal clear now. I watched, calm, as their empire fragmented piece by piece. They underestimated the quiet man. They learned he was the fiercest force in the room. Emily texted frantically, everything else falling apart. Chad S fired, panic everywhere. I didn't answer, typed back, typical Tuesday, nothing to worry about. But we both knew better. The quiet man she mocked was the one pulling the strings, remaking the empire she thought she owned. The storm had only just begun. Marcus relayed urgent news. The board demanded answers and moved the emergency meeting to tomorrow afternoon. Financial reports worsened, executive bonuses obscene. Vacations lavish, nepotism blatant. The comfortable board was scrambling. I sat back, confident. This reckoning was late, but it would be definitive. Change was inevitable. I reached out to someone overlooked: Samantha Brooks, VP of Engineering, brilliant, hardworking, ignored by the old boys club. You're exactly the leader this company needs. I messaged. Her cautious but hopeful reply sealed our alliance. Together, we would clean house and rebuild Atlas Dynamics from the inside out. Emily's messages grew frantic. Is everything okay? Richard S stressed. Strange emails came this morning. I reassured her. Tell Richard not to worry. Deep down, I knew no one could stop what was coming. The machine I started was gathering unstoppable momentum, and soon, no one at Atlas Dynamics would turn away from the truth. I dove into the company's darkest corners. Toxic power plays, backdoor deals, and thick entitlement suffocated the place I saved. I drafted a message to the board, a reminder who held true power. Tonight, silence ends. Control returns to where it belongs. This was no longer the empire of lies and favors. It was the dawn of accountability. Next morning, dressed sharply in charcoal gray, I entered Atlas Dynamics as the man I truly was. Gone was the quiet husband from company picnics. Here stood Jack Morgan, the majority owner, the force behind the curtain. Marcus met me in the parking garage, briefcase in hand. Ready? He asked. I nodded. 15 years ready. Elevator silence hummed as floors passed. The quiet man was gone, replaced by steel resolve. Doors opened to Richard Hayes, his face pale. Pacing nervously, Jack, he said, hand outstretched. This is your company now, no more pretenses. The game had changed for good. Inside the mahogany boardroom, 5 members sat confused. They expected the usual routine. I introduced myself firmly. Gentlemen, I am Jack Morgan. Recognition spread slowly, disbelief flickered. I spread the report's executive excesses, nepotism, each page a blow to their world. Patricia Hensley spoke cautiously, serious allegations. Mr. Morgan. I nodded. This company lost its way. Richard offered weak solutions. I interrupted. Proper channel is me taking direct control from my briefcase. I drew a formal notice, effective immediately. I assume operational oversight. Richard Hayes' resignation accepted. Chad Wilson terminated. Complete overhaul begins now. The room's shock was palpable. The era of shadows ended tonight. Turned announcing. Samantha Brooks as new CEO. Silence fell hard. Robert Chin scoffed at the idea. She never held executive office. I met his gaze, because promotions here were about connections, not results. Samantha represented change, a fierce, merit-based future. The unanimous vote sealed Atlas Dynamics' rebirth. 20 minutes later, Samantha arrived in her work clothes, khakis and polo, out of place but fierce. I laid out our mission: respect employees, clients, and company values. Tears welled. IV longed to make a difference. She whispered. This was the new beginning, the pulse of a company reborn on merit and integrity. As board members filed out, Emily stood pale in the hallway. Her gaze held something new: respect. Perhaps fear. The game had irrevocably changed. I walked past her without a word. The quiet husband she underestimated now rewrote the rules. This was only the start, no turning back. Home, emotions exploded. Emily paced like a caged tiger, mascara streaked. "You embarrassed me. Do you know what you've done?" She screamed, furious, hurt, betrayed. I loosened my tie calmly, hung my jacket. "Which are you more worried about?" I asked. Her voice cracked as the tempest raged on. Emily raged about reputation destroyed overnight. I suggested sitting, but she kept pacing, caught in her storm. Stammering, she tried to downplay it, just harmless office banter. I repeated slowly, "Harmless. Chad called me unemployed. Laughed when you did. You were supposed to defend me." Her shoulders sagged, the truth undeniable. Tears streamed freely. "I didn't know," she whispered. I corrected gently. "You didn't want to know. You let me seem retired, invisible, while you believed I was just supporting you, exhausted." I looked out the window, voice steady. "I wanted you to love me for me, not for what I own. When people thought I was nothing, they treated me like nothing, including you." In following weeks, Atlas dynamics began to transform. I showed up as Jack Morgan, not just Emily's quiet husband. Samantha pushed new policies, open meetings, honest dialogue, scrutinized contracts. The toxic culture rotted away, replaced by genuine excitement. The company I saved finally became the one it was meant to be. 3 months later, I stood again in the Waldorf Astoria ballroom, the same space where it began. But this night was different. Respect filled the air, success measured by impact, not politics. Samantha, now CEO, stood proudly. "Please welcome Jack Morgan," she announced. Her voice rich with genuine pride. Warm applause replaced mocking laughter. Emily sat quietly in the third row, simple and composed. Her eyes held a look I hadn't seen for years, maybe respect, maybe regret. Our marriage was far from healed, but for the first time, I truly felt seen. That moment, standing on that stage, was a quiet victory, a promise that the story was far from over. Took the microphone, scanning faces now filled with respect, not scorn. 3 months ago, many discovered the truth, not just about ownership, but what we've built together. I gestured to Samantha, pride evident under her leadership. Atlas Dynamics rediscovered its soul, a place where merit matters, respect thrives, and dreams are nurtured. The sweetest revenge wasn't tearing down, it was building something better. Giving back through the Jack Morgan Foundation to fuel young minds chasing dreams. The question lingers. When life knocks you down, do you stay silent or rise and reclaim what's yours? That night, the future was wide open, and the story was just beginning. Years of silence had almost buried me, but it forged a steel resolve. Sometimes the quietest man holds the loudest power. What truths are hidden behind the masks people wear? And when does patience become your greatest weapon or your deepest prison? Think about the stories we tell ourselves about those who seem invisible. Respect isn't handed out lightly, it's earned through grit, integrity, and standing up when it matters most. My story isn't just about power, but about reclaiming dignity. How many others silently shoulder the weight of misunderstanding? And how often do we overlook the quiet battles being fought around us? Everyone has a story worth telling. Appearances deceive. The man mocked as a loser was the one holding the strings all along. How often do we judge without seeing the whole picture? In a world obsessed with surface, what are we missing beneath? This is a story about power hidden in plain sight and the courage to bring it to light. Underestimating someone can be your greatest folly. Those who laughed thought they held power, but blind arrogance blinds itself to truth. How often do we let biases shape our reality? Remember, sometimes those we dismiss quietly plot the course ahead, waiting for the moment to strike back. Behind every great man is a story of love and loss, trust and doubt. My wife's laughter cut deepest because I craved her faith above all. What does partnership truly mean when ambition and perception cloud the heart? Can love survive when the truth shatters illusions? These are the complexities we all face behind closed doors. Sometimes the truth must be unveiled in a storm of confrontation to forge new paths. Silence can protect, but it can also imprison. My revelation was more than exposure. It was a reclaiming of identity. What truths lie waiting beneath polite facades in your life? When will you have the courage to reveal them? Samantha's rise. The old guard cracked. Merit triumphed over connections. Purpose outshone politics. Change is never easy. It shakes foundations and unsettles comfort. But progress demands courage to break cycles. What could you rebuild if you shattered your own barriers? What legacy do you want to leave behind? The journey from invisibility to power is never linear. It's paved with doubt, pain, and relentless grit. I learned to embrace the shadows as cover until I was ready to step into full light. Have you ever hidden who you truly are? What would it take to reveal your true self? 15 years of silence cost more than pride, it cost respect, love, and peace. Staying quiet is easy but expensive. How many battles are we losing by not speaking up? What could change if you found your voice today? Sometimes the hardest step forward is simply to be heard. Breaking the silence means picking up the pieces afterward, rebuilding trust, facing pain, inviting forgiveness. It's a rocky path and not always forgiven readily. But it's a chance to start anew with truth as foundation. Who in your life needs to hear your real story? Who might hear it differently than you expect? True leadership is not about titles or applause, it's about making difficult choices, standing firm in your values, and demanding accountability since taking control. I've learned leadership is a daily act of courage. How do you define leadership in your life? When have you had to stand firm against the tide? The downfall of Richard and Chad was not just corruption, but arrogance. Believing silence meant safety. They forgot that power is never static. Complacency is a slow poison. What areas of your life might be suffering from unchecked entitlement? What lessons lie in watching the mighty fall? Change requires disruption, not comfort. I had to disrupt my own life, my marriage, my image to reclaim respect. It's terrifying, unpredictable, but necessary. When was the last time you disrupted your own story? What would happen if you dared to challenge your own limits? Owning a company is about more than money. It's the legacy you build, the culture you cultivate, the lives you impact. Through the Jack Morgan Foundation, I aim to empower those chasing their dreams. What legacies do you want to leave? What impact do you crave beyond wealth or status? Admitting pain, fighting for respect. Exposing truths, it's vulnerability that demands true strength. I learned that strength is not just muscle, but heart, resolve, and authenticity. What vulnerabilities could become your greatest strengths? When might embracing pain be your first step to power? Mocked and dismissed builds a certain resilience, a fire to prove them wrong, a hunger to rewrite your story. That fire fuels me still. How do you respond when undermined? Do you retreat or rise? Resilience is often the quiet hero behind the loudest victories. Look at those around you who might be quietly battling unseen battles. How does your perception shape your respect for others? What stories have you misunderstood simply because you didn't look deeper? This is more than a story about one man. It's a reminder to look, listen, and maybe rethink who you overlook. Sometimes the quietest move makes the loudest impact. Patience and timing are powerful allies. Waiting doesn't mean weakness, it can be a strategic pause before the storm. What moments in your life have needed patient preparation? When has timing turned the tide for you? Being invisible is painful, yet it can mask strength waiting to emerge. I lived years undervalued and unseen. But invisibility gave me cover to prepare. Who in your life feels invisible? How could you empower those hidden strengths around you to shine? Success isn't trophies or titles, it's impact, respect, and integrity. Changing Atlas dynamics wasn't just business, it was restoring dignity. How do you define success in your life? What would it mean to align your achievements with your values? Truth has a cost. Relationships strain, trust breaks, comfort shatters, but it's the bedrock of respect. I paid that price with Emily. Are you ready to face the cost of your own truths? What truths are you avoiding that could set you free? Claiming who you are means tearing down misconceptions and reintroducing yourself to the world unapologetically and boldly. I reclaimed my identity that night. Who could you become if you shed the labels placed on you? What parts of yourself have you hidden too long? Atlas dynamics suffered under complacency when leaders stop watching. Greed and corruption grow. Complacency is the enemy of progress. Where have you let complacency dull your vision? What dangers lurk in what you overlook? Story is not just mine. It calls on all of us to stand tall when overlooked, to speak out when silenced, to reclaim what is rightfully ours. What battles are you ready to fight? What stories are waiting for you to tell them? The power to change lies within you. Building means beginning again with lessons learned, humility earned, and vision renewed. Atlas Dynamics, future rests on these foundations. What legacy do you want to rebuild or create? What do you want remembered when your story is told? For years, I was invisible, a ghost in my own story. Tonight, I am the king they never saw coming. Sometimes power hides in plain sight until the moment it explodes. Who else might be quietly waiting to take the throne in your world? What surprises await discovery? This is only a chapter, the beginning of a new era for me, for Atlas Dynamics. And perhaps for anyone who has ever felt underestimated. Stories evolve, and so do people. What will your next chapter be? What will you do when your moment comes? You faced years of being unseen and mocked. Would you stay silent or rise and fight? Would you reclaim your story or let others write it for you? The answers lie inside you. I hope my story sparks that fire, because no one deserves to be invisible forever. What truths have shaped your path? When did you find the courage to stand tall? Share your story in the comments because every voice matters. And sometimes what we reveal can change everything.